I want to talk to you both about irregular warfare. As I mentioned in my opening statement, our adversaries are becoming more aggressive and challenging U.S. interests through the use of asymmetric means that often fall below the threshold of conventional conflict, commonly referred to as irregular warfare or gray zone operations. In your view, what role does Special Operations Forces encountering these challenges? Do you believe that Special Operations Forces have the appropriate authorities and capabilities to operate effectively in this domain of warfare? Dr. Schroden?
It's a great question. I think irregular warfare has, to some extent, come back in vogue after having fallen out of fashion as a term for a period of time. And I think it's good that we're having this conversation again, and that Congress has taken actions to compel the Department of Defense to stand up things like the Irregular Warfare Center to draw more sustained attention and focus on this. I would agree with General Tovo, though, that the incorporation of that more fulsomely into things like the National Defense Strategy still isn't there. Right, the 2018 NDS didn't talk about irregular warfare. There was an annex that was written separately that was largely ignored by most of the people except those who wrote it. There is not such a, there's no annex like that for the 2022 NDS, nor do I look at the NDS and see irregular warfare part and parcel of what it advances. So I think that's still a missing aspect of this. To your point about specific capabilities, I think SOF are well placed to do a lot with respect to irregular warfare in a competition setting based on extant authorities like 127 ECHO, 1202, et cetera, 333. Where I see the biggest gaps residing are in the information operations space. If you look at DoD's IO capabilities, their organization, their doctrine, their use of terminology, it is about as big a mess as you could imagine. None of the services use the same terms. When they say information warfare or information operations, they're all talking about different things. They're developing different capabilities in those areas. There is no synchronicity across the department when it comes to the use of information or even how to think about the use of information. So I would highlight that.
Okay, Lieutenant General.
Yeah, just to add, Senator, first of all, I would offer there is a challenge with definitions. Everybody's got a different view of what irregular warfare means. In plain English, I would offer that conventional warfare is very enemy force focused, whereas the suite of capabilities and activities we call irregular warfare are more often focused on the human terrain, a population or a nation or a partner and ally force that we're working to help develop, or a resistance force that we're working with to overthrow an occupying power. So in that essence, I'd say it's important to understand that SOF is purpose-built for those environments.
Right.
That's what we designed, particularly our regionally aligned SOF, your Green Berets, Civil Affairs, PSYOPs. They were purpose-built for this irregular warfare or unconventional warfare environment, and are adapted very well for that. And over the last decade, the component particularly, but also SOCOM, has endeavored to build capabilities within those forces that update the ability to operate in today's irregular warfare environment, as well as filled capability gaps that we've really had for a long time.
Well, let me just give you, so Section 1202, which you mentioned, Dr. Schroden, in the 2018 NDAA authorizes the provision of support to regular forces, irregular forces, and individuals supporting or facilitating irregular warfare operations by U.S. Special Operations Forces. So just what's your assessment of that authority? Is that sufficient to be able to create more investment in this space? And what is your response to critics that, or to critiques to the authority that would draw us into conflict with strategic competitors? You can start, General.
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, sorry. I think the authorities are pretty well drawn. I think our challenge is often moving from authorities to permission, to actually taking the authority and being able to conduct an activity on the ground. There are some quirks, right? We had some programs that were, according to open source, being executed in the Ukraine under some of these authorities that had to cease when war started. I don't think that was ever the intent of Congress, but that is what the Office of General Counsel has inferred from it. And as a result, we stopped programs for our partner in the Ukraine at the very moment they need it the most.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And General Tovo, I want to say thank you as well. I do remember the last time you were in front of our committee, and